Horror can exist in many mediums: books, films, video games, and then along came the internet, and then all sorts of things came along. But today, I'd like to pick apart a very specific medium, a game engine called Source. The Source engine, simply put, is different. It's not talked about in the same way as the Unreal Engine or Unity would be. The Source engine is so much more than just a game development tool, almost like it's a legend. The games built on it are some of the most influential and important titles of all time. The easy accessibility offered the community a chance to create mods that would remain mainstream to this day. And it also allowed for the production of high quality animations with the Source filmmaker, and other means, of course. The SFM and Gmod animations are now classics in the PC gaming community, but beneath that impressive exterior, there was always a strange vibe, something I want to dive more into today. Let's start off by looking at the primary aspects of why the engine was created. See, I believe that the Source engine has always had this disturbing and ominous vibe. I mean, here are some of the first things a person sees when playing a game made with Source.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
Oh, actually my mistake. This is the first thing the player sees. From the very get-go, Valve establishes the difference. Company logos before games are usually flashy, cool, exciting, like you're diving into the fun. With Valve, it doesn't feel like diving, more like sinking. And then of course, after the talk with the G-Man who instantly introduced an aura of mystery in Half-Life 2, we have a stroll through City 17, a dystopian ruin somewhere in Eastern Europe. And with that brutalist architecture and a sort of stale, broken environment, Valve already set the atmosphere for all the things that will follow. Half-Life's assets would eventually be reused in plenty, if not all, Source games, including Portal, Counter-Strike Source, and Left 4 Dead, all having that same eeriness to them, a sort of uncanny valley feeling, if you will. But Valve wasn't just about the subtle hints of horror, they also delivered it directly, be it the screaming cat crab zombies in Ravenholm, deciphering the mad scribblings of Ratman in the isolated chambers of Aperture Science, with a diabolical AI over your head, or the waves and waves of rabid infected ferally sprinting at us on the streets. Of course, one of the exceptions would be Team Fortress 2, which wasn't without its mysteries, though I do have to admit it was certainly a much more lighthearted game. How it ties into horror will come later. There is also Dota 2, but that game is just very different, was worked on by a different team, and League of Legends is better. All these games had these almost unnecessary disturbing secrets to them. Ever since the beginning, it always felt like any Source game was hiding something more behind it. It compelled people to make rumors and myths about them, and endlessly theorize about what the G-Man or the Ratman really want. Of course, there was also the data leaks, showing all the content that was too disturbing to ship in the final product, the cremator, reversing the zombie screams, or the origin of this model. And there's plenty more to dig up in the rabbit hole. I'll leave it up to you if you want to find out more. The investigating is part of the fun, right? But moving forward, Valve released a Source development kit, allowing the community to create their own works, and after those young minds were imbued with the disturbed nature of the official catalog, what was to come could only be more terrifying. Now this is where most people would say that the horror in the Source engine began. Though horror-themed mods were already a thing with the first Half-Life, most famously Cry of Fear, the Source engine has quite the list of spooky titles to its name. Nightmare House, No More Room in Hell, and Zombie Panic. These mods all took advantage of the ingredients provided by the engine and twisted it into a vision that made the 2011 YouTubers salivate. All of a sudden, that in-your-face horror wasn't just in Ravenholm. But there is a certain mod that would go on to do so much more than any other, that of course being Gary's mod. Basically making the Source engine even easier and fun to interact with, this mod and subsequently a standalone version game would go on to change the landscape of the PC and YouTube gaming community. But while it did have that funny and creative foreground, things couldn't help but get disturbing again. Rumors and myths of haunted maps, evil entities infecting your game became prevalent. There was just something about being all alone in an empty map that felt uncomfortable. The lack of scripted characters and background music the other games at least had the decency to calm us with was now gone. In a game where you were the creator of the universe, you could sometimes feel powerless and small. This game was the Source engine laid bare, and without the proper level scripting and a feeling of an active environment, things felt kinda off. Spawning an NPC only for them to silently stare with a blank expression. Dark areas of maps felt mortifying despite us knowing that they're there just to test custom lighting effects. This uncanny effect is something that would go on to inspire the next generation of horror content on the internet using our beloved software. After a while, the antics of Gmod fell to the wayside, with a smaller audience still prevalent, but when it came to gaming on the Source engine, the biggest titles would go on to be Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, and Dota 2, with more focus on the competitive aspects. Though Dota 2 would go on to be ported onto the shiny new Source 2 engine, and just recently the same happened to CSGO, another attempt at horror by Valve apparently. But on the YouTube horror landscape something else was brewing. Petscop, Catastrophe Crow, the classic band Drowned, and the ever-favorite fuzzy cuddly animatronic bear. The idea of a story extending beyond just the video, a puzzle that required a keen eye and a knack for deciphering, became prevalent. Suddenly an actual horror game with jump scares and gruesome visuals was kids material. But the immersive experience of tracking down a haunted video game cartridge or finding the answer to seemingly real-life events became way more exciting than actually running a .exe game. Luckily for us, while this was still popular, some fine folks thought of the old Source engine and gave us a redefined take on the old rumors we spread back then. The disturbing vibes of the Source engine returned, with the amplified atmosphere of an ever-developing mystery and our fondness for nostalgia being corrupted. This got the people who grew up on Gary's mod and TF2 excited and maybe a bit disturbed. As I said before, the funny and whimsical TF2 was now corrupted and mangled by creators such as Badwater Videos or Gunslinger Pro. And projects such as Classic GM Videos and Interloper took a new spin on the idea of a haunted game, a seemingly sentient corruption of something which we should be able to control. No matter how much time passes, it seems the gaming world is hard to give up on uneasy elements of Source. I highly recommend giving these projects a look this season. They most definitely keep that nostalgic spirit alive. In conclusion, I personally believe that the Source engine is a phenomenon in gaming history. Its official catalog has games that could be considered the pinnacle of the genre. The modding scene is easily one of the biggest and most diverse, and it allowed hundreds of creators to bring their ideas to life on the internet. Yet all of those aspects have another side to it, a more twisted, unsettling side that can't be ignored. And because of that, it cemented itself into the minds of the 2010s PC gamers. You know, I always thought the name was kinda strange too. The Source engine. The source of what? As if the software itself contained something. and it wanted to get out.